everybody, my name is Tanya and this is my TBR for the Genrethon. So my reading has been kind of all over the place the last few weeks. I haven't been getting all that much reading done. Last week I didn't do a Friday reads because nothing had changed, and this week there's no Friday reads because still nothing much has changed, and it's about time that I got my TBR out for the Genrethon. The Genrethon is a week-long readathon that's being held from the 10th to the 17th of April, and it's being hosted by Brittany from Under the Radar Books, Joss from Schools Reads, Lauren from Lauren the Books, and Kristen from Vienna Weeks Books, and I will link all of their announcement videos and TBRs down in the description. But basically the Genrethon, the idea is to read books from different genres, and so to try and pick things that are outside of your comfort zone, but the goals for this one are to try and read at least 3 books from 3 different genres. And so I was making a pile of stuff to come and film this video and, putting some things in that I've been meaning to get to and kind of had on my plate for this month, but it wasn't really picking things outside of my comfort zone, and I feel like a bit of a clean slate at the moment because I've got some things that have been going on for a while, and while I'd really love to finish them, I just need something to try and boost my reading again because I'm just in a little bit of a rut at the moment. So when I was putting together this TBR and had what I thought I was going to read, I looked at my shelves and went, no, I'm going to go in a completely different direction. So the books that I picked out are not necessarily books that are out of my comfort zone, but are genres that I rarely reach for or that I haven't read in quite a long time, for the most part. And so they're things that I've really been meaning to get to for a very long time. In fact, you'll recognise most of these from my recent TBR jar video that I did, going through a shortlist that I'd made a few years ago and seeing whether I still wanted to read some of the books in there. And I've decided to pick out some of the books from there from genres that I haven't read in a long time and just finally get around to reading them, and just an injection of something new into my reading. So all that being said, let's just get on to the books. The first book you might have guessed already, or got a bit of a clue from my surroundings and something that's changed a little bit, and that is William Shakespeare's Star Wars by Ian Dozier. This is something that I've been meaning to read for a couple of years, but in general plays is something that I don't read a lot of, so I figured it would count perfectly for this, and I've been saying I want to read this and the rest of the books in the series, and I'm going to use the Genrethon to finally read this. So, as you can probably guess from the title and the fact that I've talked about it before, William Shakespeare's Star Wars is the story of Star Wars, in this case A New Hope, in the style of Shakespeare, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I've been meaning to read and do some buddy reads of Shakespeare with a group of lovely ladies, which I've been failing on, so maybe reading this one will spark that, and I'll actually pick up the play that I'm meant to be reading for that. The next book I have, I guess, could be classed as classic dystopian, and for that I have On the Beach by Neville Shute, which is another thing that I've been meaning to read for years and years and years. It's been a long time since I've read any dystopian, I think. I can't think of anything right now, and just, yep. It's about time I read this one as well. So this was first published in 1957, and it follows kind of the fallout, nuclear fallout of a future war in which fatal radiation is now killing off the planet, and the last place this radiation has reached is Australia, and it follows the last days of people living in Australia. And I have read like the first few pages of this in the past, was immediately hooked by it. It's something that I've wanted to read for such a long time. So again, I'm very much looking forward to finally getting around to this one. And then the third book that's in my shortlist TBR jar that I spoke about in that video recently is horror. And again, horror is something that I haven't really ever read all that much of. I've read a few things, but it's not something that I reach for very often, although this is one of, the authors and one that I've read a couple of before. And you can probably guess from that I'm talking about Stephen King. And the one that I really like to read is Carrie. Now, Carrie was Stephen King's first novel, and I don't know exactly why I'm drawn to wanting to read this one next of his. I guess certain scenes of Carrie are so steeped in popular culture now that we all, have this visual image when it comes to Carrie. I've not seen any of the movie adaptations, but, it's something that's there and that everybody, pretty much knows about, and I'd like to really actually find out the story. And so this, of course, is following the character of Carrie and her very strict religious mother and certain powers that Carrie may have, and that penultimate prom scene. And so I am, again, very much looking forward to finally getting to this one. And then lastly, because it wouldn't be a readathon without this, I have got the next book in the Animal series by Kay Applegate. This is number 6, The Capture, and we've cycled through the narrators and we're back to Jake, the kind of leader of the bunch. And I just, of course, this had to go on my TBR as well. these are books that I've got picked out to read during the Genrethon, and I'm feeling really good about this. Like I said, I was making this big pile of stuff, of different things that I've got to read this and I've got to read that, and I just wasn't feeling excited about anything. I was just feeling weighed down by it, and even just going off script and deciding to pick these ones and something that matches the rules of the Genrethon a little bit closer, and things that are a little bit more closer to being out of my comfort zone. I'm just feeling really excited about that. There are some things that I'm hoping to knock off before the Genrethon begins, and we'll see whether I'm successful at that. But I'm hoping that with this kind of injection of completely new things that I haven't been, planning on for a while, will just enliven my reading, get me reading again, and yeah. So again, the announcement videos of all the hosts will be linked down in the description. You should definitely join in. I think it's a fantastic idea. As always, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.